Okay, to say a few more themes and to connect what we've just said with the second part of our reading, the conclusion, pages 758 to 766. Okay, just a few more things to say. One is that what Beauvoir is describing here, and this is sort of the cornerstone of her specific kind of feminism, is what she calls the other. So when I said before that Beauvoir thinks with women we give them equality and freedom with one hand and we sort of take it away with the other, that's the basic process of making someone the other or treating them as the other. So Beauvoir says that all human beings recognize the freedom and dignity and importance of other human beings just as soon as you look at them. On the other hand, we also look at other people and immediately start noticing the differences. Right? We immediately start saying, oh, they're different from me. We see this on page 6. She says, we immediately start thinking of them as different from us. That's whatever. That's just sort of human nature. What she thinks, though, is when you take a person and you treat them as a category, a kind of people. So you take an individual, let's call her Jane, right? And you don't treat her as Jane the individual, but you automatically start thinking about her within the category of woman. And then what you think of when you think of woman are things where it's the less free, less powerful, less capable, less intelligent. That's what it means to treat someone as the other. And Beauvoir thinks that the three biggest categories, the three most important categories of people whom this has happened to were blacks in America, and she wrote this in 1946, right after World War II, so it's a little while ago, but not a whole lot has changed. Some things have changed since then for black Americans. Women throughout the world and throughout time, and Jewish people in Europe. Right? And she says these are the groups that consistently people go, well, yes, they're human, so they should have rights, of course. But then there's always ways of saying, well, the Jew is not like the rest of us. Or the black is inferior by nature. Or women are defined by their bodies, not by their minds. Right? There's always a way of giving and taking away. And that's what she calls the other. It goes, okay, let's all not do that. I mean, I'm sure you don't want to do that. But what does it mean realistically, like in real terms, to not do that? To not treat someone as the other? And pages 16 and 17 are really where she tells you what we should be doing instead. Legal abstract equality isn't enough. Okay, so what she wants, she says on page 16, is giving real concrete opportunities to individuals. Don't let people stagnate. Don't let them be immobile. Let them transcend or go beyond their current position in life by allowing them to have projects. Okay, she's doing a little wordplay there. For her, a project is, like a set task you have for yourself. But it's also, for her, a project means that you project or throw yourself into an open future. So real freedom is when you surpass yourself and you're allowed to do something different today than what you did yesterday. And you're allowed to do something that other people are not doing. So she continues, she says, we want to make sure that people accomplish their freedom by perpetual surpassing it towards other freedoms. We want their lives to expand toward an indefinitely open future. Page 17, she says that means we can't let people freeze into objects. We can't treat them as fixed, frozen objects. We have to ask ourselves a question. What paths are open to her? Which paths lead dead ends? How do you find independence within dependence? And what circumstances limit women's freedom, and how can we overcome those? So that's actually what the rest of her book is about. She marks out all these very realistic, concrete, specific ways in which we allow women to limit their own freedom, and we expect women to limit their own freedom. And I mean this we to be our whole class, men and women both. Now, jumping to page 758, we see how that plays out in everyday life, in relationships. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions. Just reflect on these sort of things. In relationships, either your own or your parents or those you see in society around you, who drives the car? Who pays for things more often? Who makes the final decision when there's some sort of decision to be made? Who sees more success in their professional life? Who, on the other hand, needs protection when they're out in the world? Who's listened to when they speak? Who does things like shoots first and asks questions later? That's the thing. Like, does things and then justifies it after the fact? And who, on the other hand, begs for permission first and checks with other people before they make a decision? So think about relationships and think about the workplace. Who in your workplace is more likely to phrase a request as a question? Hey, do you think we could do X, Y, and Z? And who's more likely to just say, I think we should do X, Y, and Z? Who is more likely in a relationship to offer their time, and who's more likely to be busy with other uses of their freedom, hanging out with the boys, fantasy football league, work, whatever it may be. So Beauvoir here she's not trying to blame you or your relationships, right? What she's trying to say is look at the way that you live your life, whether you're a man or a woman, when you're with other men and women. Her point is very much that it's not just about stereotypes. I know that's a common and it's an important way to think about racism, sexism, all these isms today, right? Is that stereotypes are bad. But what Beauvoir says is stereotypes aren't real activity. Stereotypes aren't real freedom playing out in the world. They're just ideas. So what she wants you to do is look at the way you live with someone of the other gender. Whether you're having sex with them or friends or they're your parents or your coworkers or whatever. Oftentimes, and this is a generality of course, but a consistent generality is going to have society-wide effects. In general, in something like the workplace, when there's things that people have to volunteer for, that is, they have to use up their own free time, like setting up for a party or getting a cake for a retirement get-together, right? It's more often women who do that. Now, you could say that's biological, that's their desire to nurture, etc. But if you say that, is there any similar biological tendency in men that makes them give up their time to other people? If not, it would seem that we're saying that men are built to do what they want to do and women are built to do what other people need them to do. If that's our biology, that's actually pretty creepy. Okay? But it is one possible response. That might be the facts of the biology. What's probably the case, though, is Beauvoir says, is it's probably like in relationships. It's that the woman will ask for something and the guy will, because it was asked for, just say, no, I don't want to do that tonight. And the woman will say, well, can we hang out on Friday night? And the guy will say, I can't, I have to work late. I'm trying to get this promotion. Right? That men will spend time with women as long as it takes to get what they want, which is often sex, but that the woman doesn't want to trade time for sex, but sex for time. She wants to spend time around the guy. So this is something Beauvoir says. She says, in general in our society, we treat men as human beings, as we should. What's it mean to be a human being? It means you're autonomous. It means you can take care of yourself. It means you're allowed to make your own decisions without having to, take a vote from everyone else. That's what it means to be human. That's great. But what happens is we, men and women both, treat women, including ourselves, not quite the same. We treat them like they're more dependent rather than autonomous. We treat them, of course, as having a say and freedom, but more often as their say or their freedom has to be weighed or balanced against the freedoms and ideas of other people. Like, can you picture a woman saying my way or the highway? Maybe, but you could probably definitely picture most guys saying that. Right? So I feel like what I'm saying here, it probably just sounds like a lot of generalities, right? And it is. These are generalities. The point isn't that me saying these generalities is supposed to prove the point. Okay? The point is that I'm trying to show you a pattern of behavior. It's not just that we have stereotypes about how women should look, etc. The pattern Beauvoir sees is that when we think of how men and women are different, you'll see that most of those differences come out that men are individuals who can and should do what they want. They collect political power, they collect money, they collect social accolades from other people. And that what women do is that they use their freedom to make someone else be free, to make someone else be happy. Women take their time and give it to other people, which is really nice. But ask yourself, would you rather be someone who gives time to other people to help them be successful? Or would you rather use your own time and other people's time in order to be successful yourself? Probably you want to do, some of both, but you want to use your own time for your own self. We allow women to give up their time, whether it's as mothers, as co-workers, or as, girlfriends, wives, etc. We allow them to sacrifice their time and effort and freedom for everyone else's benefits. For the kids, for the company, for the husband. Now, of course, we'd be fine if men did the same thing. Right? We'd be fine if men were stay-at-home dads, sort of. But it's that there's this constant expectation and implicit social demand that women do that, or else they're bad mothers. They're selfish wives. They're letting the family down. They're letting the company down. Now, once more, these are generalities. I'm not saying anything here that's news to you, but it also should not be all that convincing at the level which I'm stating it at. The point is that hopefully you all will generate a list of how you think men and women are different in the discussion, and that what I want you to see or look for, because it may not be there, but look for it, is see if those general ways that we think men or women are different, is there any pattern to it? And Beauvoir is going to say is that the pattern is that men are constantly asked to use their freedom to develop their own individual selves. And they are rewarded when they do so. Women, however, are asked to develop things for others, which is nice, but doesn't sound like self-development of your own freedom, does it? Mom doesn't get to have a whole lot of individuality in taking care of the kids. She does, however, help the kids establish their own free individuality. And we see on page 760 some examples that sort of shore this up. Just think about for yourself, not about all society, not about whether, it's something I can prove is generally true or anything like that. But think of just a random woman in your life, an actual woman. If she told you tomorrow that she doesn't ever want to have kids, would you find that unusual or remarkable? Now take another similar, random, but someone real in your life, a guy, and if he said, I don't want to have ever kids, would you find that unusual or remarkable? I think for a lot of people, they wouldn't find it surprising if the man didn't want to have kids. I also feel like, in my family, because I want you to answer as yourself, in my family, there would be a little more pressure on women to have kids there would be talk with them, but honey, why don't you, come on, you'd make a great mom. Why don't you want to have kids? Whereas there wouldn't be that same kind of pressure, that same kind of social pressure on a guy to have kids. Now, maybe your families are different. But if not, then it's going to be part of the evidence for what Beauvoir is saying is that there's just consistent patterns of pressure on women to look good for other people, to do unpaid, time-consuming work for other people, kids, husband, etc. To reach consensus, get everyone in agreement before they make a decision. Whereas we expect men, on the other hand, to be trailblazers and to do things, damn the torpedoes kind of stuff, right? To just do things and go with their gut. But once more, Beauvoir's not saying that men do that against women. All of this happens at a sort of, I don't want to say unconscious, right? But it's at the level of expectations. Men expect themselves and other people expect men to be humans. And we expect women to be humans, but we expect them to be female humans. So we'll actually finish up this recording by going back to one of the early pages. We see this on page 5. And it goes over to 6. It pops up a few times in those first pages. But on 5, she says, ask a man what he is, and he'll just describe himself. But ask a woman or anyone else who's been made to feel like they're the other, what they are. And they'll describe themselves, but through characteristics of being a woman, a Jewish person, a black person, right? A poor person, whatever it may be. So he says, when we say humanity, it's true in English and in French and in German, these other languages. But when you say the word for human beings in general, it has the word man in it. And it doesn't have the word woman in it. Nor does it have some truly neutral word like, say, person, right? If we normally describe the world and everyone in it as, personhood or something like that, that would be a neutral word. But in so many cultures, when we talk about what a person is, our default image of what a person is a man. And so men are expected to be people, just flat out regular people. But when you think about a woman, it's like there's an asterisk, like the little star by it all the time. She doesn't get described in generic human terms. Free, rational, animal. She gets described in ways that link her back to her femininity. So she's already not just a generic human, but a female human. And so as she says, woman is always used in the negative, making any determination, any specific determination of her as female into a limitation. Right? So this is what Beauvoir says. It's not that men dominate women. It's not that men abuse women. It's not that men hate women. It's that men are allowed to act as all human beings should allowed to be act. To do their own thing. And women are allowed that too, but there's always a little bit of resistance, a little bit of friction, or that little tiny asterisk by it. It's like, she's free, but ... And that's all she wants. She doesn't want to take what men have and give it to women. She doesn't want men to stop being free. She wants all of us, men and women both, to elevate ourselves to the level of general free humanity. We already expect men to elevate themselves to that level, and many of them do. We already expect men to do that. We expect white people to do that. We expect the list goes on, right? But we lower our expectations for some people, and that lets them have lower expectations for themselves. that lets people make sacrifices or bad, harmful decisions that other people might not make because they've already given up on living their life as a full, free, autonomous project because they've been told that their body holds them back, or their brains hold them back, or that their culture is a bad, sick culture and it holds them back. Right? So, we all just need to rise up to the same high level of freedom. It's not about taking anything away from anyone. It's not about blaming anyone. It's not about hating anyone. It's about all of us stepping up our game and choosing freedom in a way that enhances our own freedom in the future and enhances the freedom of those around us in the future. Okay, so that's Beauvoir. I'm looking forward to the discussion about this. And as always, if you have any questions, just shoot me an email and I'll talk with you over email. Thanks, everyone.